Yeah, hi there. These comments are for 3424, and I am Professor Buckoff, your English 102B instructor. I just read your multi-draft writing project, so I got good news for you. You did very well in all categories of the rubric. Your only weakness right now is your sentence style and your grammatical type proficiency. So let me just point out a few examples of some things that you want to be aware of in your writing. And I numbered the paragraphs. So let's go to paragraph 1. This is called a subject-verb agreement issue. So the second to the last sentence in the paragraph, you say, many people say that violent video games are a nuisance to their children and to others, and that you say causes, but because they is plural, the verb should be plural, and that they cause users to become more violent. So that's called subject-verb agreement. If the subject is singular, the verb should be singular. Now the next type of error I want to point out, let's go to page 2. This is called a fragment. A fragment means an incomplete sentence. So on page 2, before paragraph 4, in the second sentence you say, as well as the author, violent video games, and aggressive thoughts, feelings, and behaviors. Now obviously that's not a complete sentence because there's no subject and no verb in there. To repair this particular sentence, you simply need to combine it with the previous sentence. And I like how you qualified Greg A. Anderson when you said, an American professor and director at the Department of Psychology, Iowa State University in Ames, and then you might say, and the author of violent video games and aggressive thoughts, feelings, and behaviors. Now, if violent video games and aggressive thoughts, feelings, and behavior, if this is a book, you want to underline it. Okay, so in this case, I showed you an example of how you can take a fragment and combine it with the previous sentence in order to make it correct. Now the next type of error in that same paragraph, it is called a run-on. So you say, in his research, it said that children learn much about the world they were born into. Just by observing, the children can understand what is okay to do and what is not okay. So after the word into, that's where you want to put a period. Then you can, instead of it said, say, it is said that children learn much about the world they were born into, period. Just by observing, comma, the children can understand what is okay to do and what is not okay. So that's an example of, if you have a run-on, you simply need to separate the two sentences and maybe put a period or a semicolon to show that those are separate sentences. Now, one more error I'll point out in paragraph 4. This is another problem with your sentence structure. In this case, in the sentence, you say, in the experimental study had similar characteristics with both violent and nonviolent games. They share the same difficulty on a violent or nonviolent that are truly violent. So that whole sentence is hard to understand. There's so many errors in there. But first of all, remember, you have to have a subject. If you say, in the experimental study, then you should probably put a comma and then say, scientists discovered similar characteristics with both violent and nonviolent games, period. Or you can say, the experimental study found similar characteristics with both violent and nonviolent games. So what am I saying? I'm saying that prepositional phrases cannot really function as subjects. That's kind of what I'm saying there. So overall, though, you have a good paper. You just need to polish better. You need a little bit more proficiency with your sentence style and your word choice and so on. Still, I have to acknowledge, despite some of the problems with your word choice and your sentence structure, you had a very good thesis. You framed your debate. You explained the two sides. You gave your opinion. You were strong in terms of using sources to help explain and then back up your own argument. So you were good in many, many areas of this paper. So overall, you lost 6 points total in the rubric. That gives you 44 points out of 50. and that puts you at 88% on this assignment.